Good evening. My name is CJ. I'm the president of the Zonta Club of Ottawa. I'm very proud and honored to welcome you all to this lovely cooking event, which is a fundraiser for our annual rewards program. So before we get started with the cooking, it's pertinent for you to know who and what you're supporting tonight. Your $25 ticket to attend tonight will directly fund our scholarships and bursaries for the 2022 year. Our awards program consists of the, hi, sorry, could you mute yourselves if you're not already muted? Thank you. So the awards that we give out every year include the Young Women in Public Affairs Award, which recognizes high school-aged young women who are committed to leadership in public policy, government, and or volunteer organizations. Our Jean M. Kuhn Humanitarian Award is given to a high school student who demonstrates exceptional humanitarian community service. Our Mature University Students Bursary Awards, we have two, are given to students who have had to interrupt their studies for formal education for medical, financial, or other reasons, and are returning to complete their programs. Our Jane M. Klossman Women in Business Award is given each year to a woman pursuing an undergraduate or master's degree in business management at a university in the National Capital Region. Our New Immigrant Women Education Award is given to a new immigrant who is a resident of Ottawa or Gatineau and is a single mother raising a family while working on her own education at any level. And finally, our Theatre Arts Bursary Award is awarded annually to women in the National Capital Region who are currently enrolled in a post-secondary theatre program. Because of your attendance tonight, these awards continue to be possible. Tonight, through your ticket and your attendance, you are touching the lives of girls and women in the National Capital Region, and we thank you truly for your support. I'd like to now pass it to Susie, who will introduce the evening more, and especially our chef. Looking forward to the cooking event. Thank you all for being here.
All right, giving me the thumbs up, so we're going to begin. All right. I wanted to begin tonight by saying, Susan, apart from you and I having the exact same first name, there isn't anything else that duplicates the two of us, honestly, because you graduated from the Ottawa Culinary Institute, the Cordon Bleu Culinary Institute here in Ottawa. You have also been an incredible chef and a wonderful mentor for so many organizations and corporations and private citizens here about food, food safety, and your favorite subject, which is what you call the food desert, which is when food is very hard to get for so many people. And I know that you are the owner and the executive chef of 42 Crichton Fine Foods, which was in New Edinburgh. I remember that. And you were chef at Chez Eric in Wakefield.
Correct. Yes.
You supported Carleton students in their efforts to access local affordable foods and healthy foods. And you've worked with preschool, school-age children, with new Canadians, and you've helped those with unique dietary restrictions. And if that is not enough, throughout your career, you have provided guidance and training. And luckily, we're here tonight to help my fellow Zontians learn a little bit about cooking. Although some of our potlucks are pretty good, but now we're going to go over the top. Okay? Many of the people that are on tonight don't live here in Ottawa or very far away, so we appreciate their attendance. And without that, this Susan wants to learn from that Susan. So please go ahead.
All right. So I'm going to begin, if it's all right with you folks, before we get into the food thing, a few talking points, as I've called it. So Susie mentioned that people might be interested in hacks. And I'm not sure if you know some of the parchment hacks, but if you look at this, this is our clafoutis. So you should have the recipe for that. That's a vegetarian dish. And I've lined the pan with parchment. And you do that by folding in half again, and then cutting to the corners. And I cut the wrong corners because I wasn't paying attention. So now I'm doing something that doesn't even closely resemble those little lacy things we used to do in school. So as I said in the recipe, you've got the 4 corners that are loose, so they're not connected. That's where you cut. So there's my hack. What not to do and what to do. All right, move on. Now, we could talk about some other hacks later. I think what I'd really like to do is tell you that the fish I used tonight has a very interesting story, and it was a Sundance Seafood Limited that started. And I know this because one of the daughters that's mentioned in the story on the back of the West Coast Select Fish, one of the daughters is married to my nephew. And she said that her father ran the business out of the garage to start. He had a little fishing boat and it went from there. But the product is really, really high quality, and it's got a charming story. So I just thought I'd mention that, honorable mentions. And the farmer's salt, which I've used to enhance the no meat pâté, and then I put a little bit on the green beans as well. So that's farmer's salt, again from BC. And then the charcuterie, some of the charcuterie is seed to sausage. And beyond that, I would say so many of the local farmers, the beans, for example, the vegetables and the fruits for the pickles, cheeses from Quebec, Elogru for one, Oka Classique, the Folie Bergère, which is Maggie, Le Couprin mushrooms for the mushroom pickle, which I'll put out later, local dairy and eggs, even the gin, which went into the potted fish, Laneway number 11 gin. So I mention these people because it means a lot to me, and there's more. And it's something that I've always tried to do. When I couldn't get something that was really very close, very local from a farmer or a distributor that I knew quite well, I went a little bit farther. And I'm not legalistic about it by any stretch. Look I've got little oranges there, I've got grapes. Well, we don't have those around here. I'm using, peppercorns from elsewhere. But the idea of supporting the people that are close to us, it's we support them and they can continue to do what we need them to do. Now, one good point, food production. More than 70% of the world's food, it could be as much as 80%, is produced by small-scale farmers on 25% of agricultural land. So increasing industrial-sized farming operations, which is what we hear about all the time in order to meet our food needs, will not address food scarcity and inequity. Much of the large-scale operations, in fact, are monoculture, and more than half of what grows is wasted. Okay, so that's the, stuff I feel like I have to say. And there's some other little hacks we can talk about later when the question and answer period comes up. And I guess what I'm going to do, unless Susie has something she'd prefer me to do, is start putting the food out and talking about it as I do. And if people have questions on the way, I think it would be a good time to do, to address that.
Terrific.
Okay. So we're going to start with the vegetarian options. We'll put those out first. You think that's in the way, Susie? Oh yeah, so
switch it here.
This is when you cut the parchment properly, you see how you could lift that out just so ever so easily, and that's the whole idea. What you do is you create a sling for the food, so it doesn't stick and it comes out in a nice piece. So this is the clafoutis. It's vegetarian. not dairy-free. And it's a lovely thing that you can serve right out of the oven for a quick meal, or you can cool it down to room temperature, or even do it the day ahead. It's quite lovely. And I've served this at wedding receptions, using all product, in fact, from the farm, the local farm that I served the food at. So that was fun. Their herbs, their chickens, eggs, the vegetables from their garden. So it's something it's not complicated to make. It almost always works out. It tastes lovely. Even people that eat lots of meat love this because it's satisfying, but at the same time, it's not too heavy either.
Susan, I should say that anybody that's watching, if you didn't get a copy of the recipes, would you please just put your name in the chat and say no recipes, and I'll make sure that you get them tomorrow morning. I think there are 8 of them, 7 or 8 of them.
Yes, there are 8. There are more as well. I mean, there's more things going on. If you have any questions, let's field those. I'm just going to use a couple of these just to bring up the color. Give it a little,
so easy.
A little punch. Oops, these got away on me. So these are actually a local greenhouse product, and I use them quite often. I really like.
Yes. Little cherry tomatoes.
Yeah, tiny little guys.
So pretty.
Yep, and they're rolling all over the place. It's great. Playing with marbles on a board.
You know, unfortunately, my Marcelli and I are here, along with 2 guests. And when this is over, guess who's going to dive into that?
Yeah.
Tyler, Mark, Susie, Marcelli, our 2 guests.
Okay, so I think what I'll do is, now this is the no meat pâté. So it has a definite umami sort of appeal. It's high protein. It's white beans, chestnuts, and then you'll see on the recipe that the little bit of truffle oil and the sage brings it to a very interesting, very appealing, kind of toothsome, meaty flavor, but no meat. So that's great. And it's actually plant-based as well. Now let's put these guys here. So I did it's a bit sharp, but this is a wine and herb mustard. Very easy to make. It's just mustard powder, mustard seed, a little wine, wine vinegar, sea salt, and fresh herbs, and you just let it sit. And there it is, mustard, voila.
It said in the recipe that you can let it sit for 2 days.
Yes.
Now, what is the mustard powder? Is that just found in a...
That's ground mustard.
Ground mustard. And
Yeah.
you find that in one of those little bags at the
You can
spice store? Or,
grocery stores,
Yes.
bulk food stores.
and it's not hot.
Well, this one is a little sharp. So this mustard powder is a little bit more sharp than usual. So what I would do is I would make sure that you were buying something that said mild, and you could even sweeten it a little bit with a little maple syrup or honey.
Wow.
Let me see, I've got my fish out there. Turn that over. Okay, so we've got, moving down to the spreads here, chestnut white bean, that's there. And then we've got potted fish, and that's this one here. So that's using the fish from West Coast Select and a
Now,
local.
The fish is smoked salmon, correct?
It's smoked salmon, but you can use smoked trout. And there are other smoked fish as well, which would be just fine. It's according to taste. And
So when I buy the smoked salmon, it comes in usually on a flat piece of styrofoam.
yes,
And
Or
then you
board.
sort of
Yeah.
sort of peel it off.
sure.
So then what do you do with it after that?
Oh, well, the recipe, you just whiz up your cream cheese A tiny bit of heavy cream, your gin, if you're using gin. And by the way, if you don't want to use gin, that's fine. I would use a little crushed juniper berry, that, that sort of, note that you always get in a gin. I'm having trouble with this lid. I might have to employ somebody to take it off for me. I'll get it. I will.
Carry on it.
All right. Help.
You're meeting Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler.
As if she's, you know what happened? Then Susan loosened it and then Tyler was good.
Oh no, he did.
Yeah.
He did a great job. Okay, so this is a melon from a local farm that I bought in the summertime. And in fact, I did jars of this for my son's wedding and then sent it ahead by Canada Post. So it's just a pickled melon, and that's going to go on the charcuterie board. As well as that, let me see, I'm putting some capers. These are pickled capers. These are the big ones. So I'm going to put a few of these on here.
Is it true capers are actually nasturtium seeds or something like that? Are they a seed?
They're berries.
They're a berry, okay.
Notice that technique? Something falls down, just fling it away. There we go. Okay, so keep all that handy because we might use it again. Here we've got our green olives, we've got our relish, we've got our mustard. So we'll put that out. We'll probably add some more accoutrement to that. Oh, and this is something I forgot to mention at the beginning. You see these boards that people are making now. The fashion is to make this big extravagant thing with everything all piled on top, which is fine. It has dramatic appeal. But what happens if you have people, and very often they eat a plant-based diet, or they're vegetarian, or they don't eat pork, or whatever. And the other thing is, when you're having people over, it's a lot easier to take one of the boards or a platter back to the kitchen, refill it, and take it back.
Sure.
And then I like to keep the cheese board separate, although I'm not saying that you should never have cheese on your charcuterie. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. But the thing is, I like it as a dessert. I like it as a finish, because if people start filling up on cheese at the beginning, it's a high fat, high protein item. They may not want anything else after the fact. So the idea is to let them, pace your evening. And there is something very nice about finishing. And then you can sort of garnish. What I've done is what we're going to do is garnish the cheese board with walnuts that I candied very quickly, and pieces of chocolate. And so the cranberry pear compote, I think that was on the menu, wasn't it? Yeah, it's gone.
Yes.
My father ate it. He loves jam. He thought it was jam. So, but the rhubarb cherry with the thyme and the lemon is also very, very good with cheese. So I'll put that out with the cheese. So here we are, just bit by bit, putting this out.
Mark, can you see, or could you ask CJ if we have any questions between?
Yeah, please.
Already?
Let's do that. Ask me anything.
Is it gonna snow tomorrow?
Apparently. Apparently. Okay, so now we're going to put out some cheeses. And we have a really nice selection of cheese. We have Oka Classique, beautiful cheese. I've always been a big fan. I love this sort of, I don't even know how to describe it, how you describe Oka, but it's got, by the way, it's great for poutine. And
Oh, really?
yeah, it makes a great poutine. And
terrific.
even if you don't like meat, that cheese with a mushroom ragu instead of meat, and roast your potatoes. You don't have to fry them, so you can even make a healthy poutine. But the oka, there's something about the oka that's just beautiful. And this is the Ilogru cheddar. So what I'm going
still made in Oka, Quebec, and by the
Yes, it is. It is.
by it's the Catholic Church, or is it nuns, or is it a
Well, it's controlled.
seminary?
There's a definite the monastery.
Yes.
So they definitely have a lot of control
Oh, good.
over it still. There we go. And this is the Ilogru cheddar. Now this is from Ilogru in Quebec, and it's very unique, and it's an award-winning cheddar, and I absolutely love it. This is Maggie's cheese. She sells this around Ottawa. I don't know how many of you out there are in the Ottawa area or in, not too far away. She's worth it. Like, her cheese is fantastic. She's a true artisan. And this one is the Fabulous You, she calls it. She's got a great sense of humor, and the graphics are gorgeous. But this is a sheep's cheese, and it's just stunning.
Now, Prim Granger, one of our wonderful members, she made up the poster for this meeting, and we asked Susan for a picture.
Oh, yes, right.
She gave us a picture, and you were making cheese in Italy or in France?
No, I was in Switzerland.
Or in Switzerland.
Yeah, I was in Chateau d'Eu, up in the mountains, and this is a medieval.
We have a couple questions.
Okay.
So
Okay.
First question from Elizabeth. The recipe says prepare the sage. How do you do this using fresh sage leaves?
Okay, good point. So if it's fresh sage, then I would mince that up or do a chiffonade, which means you roll your sage leaves and then you cut across. But if you're using dried sage, just measure it.
Awesome. Another question says, where can I buy that cheese? I'm assuming the one you're working with now.
Which one? The Maggie's
That is
cheese?
Maggie's.
Maggie.
Maggie's cheese. You can buy that at Metro and
Farm Boy?
Farm Boy. Exactly that. Yeah, Farm Boy. Isn't that just a great grocery store?
And we have a question from Shirley that asked, where are you putting the capers?
The capers, I put some on the tray, the garnish tray, and then I put a few in and around the clafoutis. So it's a pickle. It's just something that, sort of sharpens the appetite, and it adds a nice element to a charcuterie or some sort of board like this. It just brings everything up. So we've got the pickled capers, we've got pickled melon, and pickled mushrooms will go out with the meat. Yeah, it just makes it kind of interesting, I think. Now we've got our rhubarb cherry, because my dad ate cranberry. My back was turned. I was away,
Doesn't take long.
I was away.
I know.
Oh, the cat's away. Okay, so now
It's
our
even
walnuts.
faster when the grandchildren are home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, especially to the one little boy in Switzerland, and then my granddaughter in Vancouver has an amazing appetite.
Now, these are the candied.
These are candied walnuts, actually. And
Really quick, would you be able to move the three plastic black just to a bit ahead so we can see the color?
certainly. What else needs
That's
to be moved?
The other way?
A bit more to the right, actually.
Maybe put them over here.
Excellent. There we go.
Oh, my goodness. There, how's this?
I'll look after them.
Are we good?
Yep.
Okay, I can't see what I look like from back here. So I'm relying on these people to guide me. So the walnuts are kind of fun. You just take a little olive oil. I used a pinch of curry. What else did I use on these? A pinch of smoked paprika, not too much, and salt, and then finished it with maple syrup. And you just candy them, and they're beautiful.
So what's the heat? What number on the heat? Like a 6 or
That's a very good question. So watch your heat, people.
Another couple questions.
Sure. Okay, let's address those questions before we move on.
One says, there was no recipe for the compote jam. How is this made? And another one says, how do you make the pickled melon?
Yes,
Okay,
that's coming.
so the compote, the one I'm using tonight, was local rhubarb, cherries that were from the year before, from BC, frozen, perfectly legit. And what else did I use in there? Just organic sugar, and I just cooked everything down. I do not use Sirta or anything like that. I just let the natural pectin come through. And of course, the lemon and lime will draw that pectin out of the fruit and help it to gel, which is a really useful thing. So these are recipes that if you wanted to send me an email later on, we could certainly have a conversation about it. So these are just, you can also go to the store and buy some that you like, a product that you really enjoy. I do preserves for the wild oat. I put, various, things on their shelf for them. So if you're interested, definitely. Now, what was the other?
Under the wild oat label?
No, it's my label.
In your label?
Well preserved.
Well preserved, I see
.co.
that. I know that, that's your email.
That's me.
That's terrific.
So another question mark, I think you said.
Yeah, so the other question was, how did you make the pickled melon?
Aha.
That's coming, isn't it?
This one here. So
Yes.
on this one, I used cider vinegar and wine vinegar and water. And I always up the acid, the amount of vinegar in my pickles, because I want the pH to be really, to have the correct pH, to have it a little bit more acid than what a lot of people would use. So bay leaf, peppercorn, there's a little bit of, it's called long pepper. So that's a kind of a unique exotic pepper. I love pepper. I have, in my cupboard right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of peppercorns. So I find they add lots of flavor. There's some shallot in there and 1, maybe 2 hot peppers. So these are not hot pickles. I made 2 varieties for the wedding. I made one that was very spicy and one not spicy. Warmth, but not too much.
And then do you boil them after? I mean, not boil them, but do you do a boiled bath?
Oh, everything. If you're going to, you have to pasteurize if you want it to be preserved. Now I do quick pickles that I'll just put directly into the fridge. Once it's, finished, it goes into the fridge. But if you're doing something that you want to be shelf stable, you have to pasteurize. Now you don't cook the melon, you pack it into sterilized jars with gloves.
Right.
And you add your spices first, then your fruit or your vegetable, and you pour your boiling brine on the top. And then you seal it up and you pasteurize for the required number of minutes. That's it. It's classic technique. Okay, so let's take this one over. Oh, there we go. Fan down. I'm not
When
doing
I
very
made,
well in keeping my.
at Zonta, we used to do jams and jellies, and we would sell it at one of the Christmas markets.
Yeah.
And one year, when I did them,
Yes.
I made the jam, but I think I really boiled it down for at least 40 minutes watching it. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right, but it depends on the fruit.
Okay.
And it depends on, how meaty it is. Now, more acidic fruits and vegetables will work much better when you're preserving, right?
Okay.
So it's a little safer.
Yeah.
So low acid fruits and vegetables need to have their acidity brought up. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions, Mark?
Beginning at the moment.
Okay. So now we're going to put out the meats. I tend to put those out last. And usually not a lot at a time, so that you can always replenish. And depending on how warm your room is, right, this is going to have a definite effect on your. So this is the chicken, mushroom, and hazelnut pâté. It's really pretty. It's got really nice texture, and it's pork free, and it's low fat by comparison.
We have one question from Cindy.
Okay.
What else was put on the cheese tray with the cheeses? Or on the tray with the cheeses, sorry.
The walnuts and pieces of chocolate, and I use chocolate quite often from Galerie au Chocolat, which is Montreal, and the chocolate's very good. I always use them when I have my shop.
Doesn't it say maple something on there?
Yes, one's a maple crunch, chocolate with maple crunch, so it's milk chocolate, and then dark chocolate with sea salt.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay, anything else? Not yet? Okay. Here we are. Now we'll do some sieved sausage on here.
I had a question about the chicken mushroom pâté.
Yes.
Do you just put it all together, or is there, you don't do any?
There's a technique for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a sautéing of the onion, I believe, from that one. A little bit of sweet onion. And the mushrooms as well. I'm not sure if I already did the cleanup on this, but I may not have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got the recipe here
Okay.
now. I understand.
Yeah. So what does it say, Susie?
Well, you use a tureen mold to bake in this pâté, but a heavy loaf pan or even a small saucepan will do fine.
Exactly.
Something with a lid is needed, so you can create a lid with parchment and foil.
Right.
It's very important to bake this terrine in a bain-marie,
Yeah.
water bath.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I use a roasting pan. Set the designated terrine pan into the bain-marie
Mhm.
and add cold water to about 3/4 of the way up the sides. Carefully into the oven. Check the internal temp of the terrine at the 1 hour mark. This will give you an idea of
How much more?
how much more is required. The internal temperature should be 68 to 70 degrees Celsius. An accurate meat thermometer is required for this.
Correct.
We got a related question. What is terrine?
Yes. So I use a clousset, which is an enamel coated cast iron. Yes, like that. But it's this beautiful shape, which is just the perfect. It gives you that shape. But you can use that. You can also use a heavy loaf pan, and I've used pots. When I was working at the piggy market, there was always, we always had to have tasters. So I'd use a small heavy pot and fashion a lid so that I could have my tester. And that works too. That gives you a round shape, but it's absolutely fine. What's important is the bain-marie, the water bath, and the meat thermometer. That's very important.
But there's something even more important. It says cool the terrine at room temperature with the lid partially off, or at porch temperature. Watch out for cats and raccoons.
Yes. I live on the 22nd floor. It's no longer an issue. But it was when I was living in Quebec.
Oh, that's great. So again, if you didn't receive the recipes, please let us know.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to communicate with folks and fine tune. I don't know. I would say the terrine, the chicken and mushroom terrine is perhaps the most complex, but it's really just a matter of following the steps. And then you end up with a product that's cleaner, leaner, and according to your palate, what you want. So this is the prosciutto, and this is Italian prosciutto. I like the Niagara prosciutto as well. It's very good. We don't need a lot of it. It's got a higher fat content, and of course, the salt.
You're just
And-
putting that on just in little piles, sort of little roses.
Kind of, yeah. I know some people like to roll them up and fuss over them, but I don't. I like them like that. I like to get them on the board and get them to the people. There we go. When we, at the wedding, when we were on the island, actually, my son, my oldest son, had gone to an Italian store to get some prosciutto, and she sliced it very thin. I don't know whether communication broke down and he said, I want it very thin, and she misunderstood, but it was the worst to peel apart. And my son was peeling this and rolling it up ever so, which is great for him, but there was no way I was going to do that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, now let's fill in the gaps. We've got our meats here. Calabrese. We have the saucisson sec, which is a classic French dried sausage. Now these are the pickled mushrooms. These are from Le Coprin. They're the King
Is that a
Orangis.
store?
No, it's a mushroom facility in Quebec, and he sells his mushrooms at Metro. I don't think I've seen them at Farm Boy. And also to many different businesses around town. Like he supplies a lot of the restaurants.
And how
in
do they
town.
come? Is in a, like, by the gram, 100 grams or something?
Yeah, by the kilo or by the half kilo and in a paper box.
Ah.
He's very good. I've been to his facility. It's like going to the moon. He took ship's containers and he refashioned them into these coolers, these grow stations for his mushrooms. It's very interesting. And he wild forages too for morels and that sort of thing. But he's very talented. I said to him one time, how did you get into this, Christophe? And he said, well, I met the right guy. And he was inspired.
Oh,
And it
that's
just went
great.
from there. Yeah, he met a microbiologist, so microbiologist who specializes in mushrooms. And that was it. He fell in love with the whole idea of it. So,
Well, I'm sorry, there are other people on the committee. We've got Paula Zubek and Val Knowles, and then we have a, we were on this food evening committee, and then we have the public relations committee, which includes Elspeth Nickel and our wonderful Cindy O'Neill, and of course CJ, our president. And I'm just really sorry you guys aren't here. I'm so sorry I had to be here.
well,
This is really tough. I hope you all appreciate
your
what I'm going
sacrifice.
through. Yes, my sacrifice to be here. This is really tough.
All right.
We have another question.
Yes.
So the question is, scrolling up here. 1 second. What kind of melon are you using for the pickled melon recipe?
This is, oh, I've forgotten the name. It's a very common melon in Italy, and there are quite a few growers in the region that grow really unique, beautiful melons, like gorgeous. So it's not a cantaloupe, it's a,
It wouldn't be a cassava melon, would it?
yes, it's a cassava. Exactly. Thank you.
We are impressed.
Yeah, we are impressed.
Mark.
That's good. That's great. Yeah, it's a cassava.
Is that your mother's doing?
No, it's just deep memory.
Oh, good.
Okay, so now a little bit of fussy perhaps, or maybe not. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. Little forks. Oh yeah, the stuff
Right
that,
here.
thank you. I've come off. So I'm putting a few of these little bamboo forks around because it's just better. for people trying to use a fork than their fingers. And put quite a few so that.
We went to a wonderful food, not a display, but a food fair at City Hall a couple of years ago. And all of everything was bamboo and recyclable. There wasn't a plastic thing anywhere, nor was there a paper thing. It was absolutely wonderful.
It is wonderful. And it's amazing what you can, I mean, this is just cobbled together from my stuff, you know, so, and I like it. I like not having everything match. I like just sort of pulling it all together and avoiding plastic as much as possible. Except the little plastic bags, but that's for cleanliness, okay? That's just for cleanliness. So this is a little bit of reduced balsamic and
did you reduce
apple cider? Yeah.
How do you do that?
You just low and slow on your stove. So I'm just putting a little bit of garnish just to bring up the sharpness of the pâté. And now let's see if we can get it over to the table without dropping something. There we are. So we have that, and we have our clafoutis green olives, because I think they go with so many different things. They've got a kind of fresh fruitiness about them. These are the seed crackers, if you're interested. They're dead easy to make. So easy, and they're gluten-free. They're high fiber. They're just gorgeous.
Okay, so go through the process there. You put them all on
You put all the seeds in a bowl, you add your water, let it sit overnight, and your seasoning, which is a little bit of, I use herbamare, but you don't have to use that. I just have it in my cupboard. So a bit of salt and a bit of fine herbs, and then pepper. And I use caraway seed, fennel seed, and cumin seed.
Right.
And then mix everything together with the seeds, the water. It's kind of soupy. You cover it, you let it sit overnight, and then you spread it. I have an offset spot, it's got that little bend in it. So you take the handle and you smooth it onto the parchment lined tray. So the recipe will make 2 trays of that size. And then you
bake it in the oven.
You bake it in the oven, you take it out at a certain point, and you cut it, you mark it, and then back into the oven. And you may have to turn, depending on your oven. I don't have convection, so I actually have to turn the crackers over toward the end and let them dry out a little bit on the bottom, because you want them crispy. How's the sound, Mark?
I think we're doing okay.
Yeah? Okay.
And can they see the crackers?
We're drawing a photo of the crackers now.
Yeah.
Maybe put them by the cutting board.
Over here? How's that?
Help you this so that you can see them.
Awesome. Very good air.
Okay, so I think they're quite attractive looking. They have that sort of earthy textured appeal. They're tasty.
Well, they look like the crackers that you buy when they're like $7 a box.
Exactly.
$3.25.
And they're not. Not to make anyway, and they're really easy. It's one of the easiest things to make. The mustard takes no time. The butternut squash relish, I did that in September. Got a local squash, and that recipe is very easy. Food processors are lovely. So any more questions? Oh, and there's a pot of vegetable broth in this. You got it? Yeah, it's a little warm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's just vegetarian. It's all plant-based. But like I said, it's really, really nice when people come in kind of cold, they're maybe tired, a bit thirsty. So they can drink that down before they get into the wine or the whatever. Or maybe they don't want wine and they just want, you know, sparkling water and broth, and that suits them fine too. And by keeping it, you know, vegan, then it appeals to everyone. Nobody's left out. Oh, the green beans, yes. So I just hit those with a bit of olive oil and the farmer's salt, the one with the West Coast seaweed in it. Which one is it? Kombu, maybe? No, not kombu. It's one of the West Coast specific to that region. And farmer's salt people do some really great things. So that's all I did with those. Wow. Just a little bit of something, a little vegetable on the plate. I blanched the beans, blanched the beans, yeah. And then I cooled them down, yeah. What some people do, in fact, we did this at the wedding. We covered this big wooden table because there were, you know, almost 50 people there with butcher paper. And we had some trays, some height. You can see this. You need that for a table. We can't light the candles because we're afraid we'll have a rain shower on our heads. But we did a lot of our plating on the table, and it was such a great big table. We protected it with the butcher paper. It's more rustic looking, but it was very nice. That's the kind of wedding it was. And it allowed us to section off areas so that people, there's always going to be people that are going to eat a certain way and not eat certain things. And that way they knew where it was. Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Are there any more questions? I wonder if you could give us.
We have a question. What is the brand name of Chef Susan's prepared foods that are sold at the Wild Oak?
Well Preserved. Susan at Well Preserved.
And I wondered if you could take just a couple of minutes to tell us your philosophy of this food desert.
Well, it's not mine. I mean, it's not my philosophy.
It's would rather not have it at all. But.
Yeah, food insecurity. It's we have food deserts in the Ottawa area. We have areas where people, despite living in the capital of Canada, don't have enough to eat. And it's not just that there isn't food around, but there's inequity. They don't have easy transportation to get to it. They may not be able to afford a car. Our public transportation since the pandemic has been absolutely dismal. It's no surprise that the food banks are exploding with need.
Right.
So, and we have demographics that are vulnerable that may surprise people. For example, college and university students. They're at least 2 generations away from a kind of a very organic, from birth education that they got from their moms, dad, grandparents, and they weren't growing food, they weren't close to it, they weren't part of the process. So they lacked that. And then with the industrialization of food, and fast foods and convenience foods, it makes it very challenging. Now they're in, you know, university and college. They've got a certain amount of money. They're working part-time jobs. They're trying to keep up with their studies, probably not always making good use of their monies for food. Perhaps having pizza and beer a little too much, whatever. But no shaming on that. It's just, there's a lack of knowledge of what to do with that money and how do I make nourishing meals for myself. I don't have time. I've got a job or 2 jobs. I'm trying to get an education. It costs a lot and there's always month at the end of the money. So they're falling between the cracks and they're of childbearing age as well. So it goes on.
We have a question about if you could speak more about the farmer salt you use. Is farmer salt the brand?
It is the brand. It is, and she's got a really unique, or they have a very unique story. So I encourage you to look it up. Are there anybody else, like any other folks that you'd like to look up? Now, I know they do send it, they ship it. I haven't seen it yet in this, in this area, but I brought some back with me. They're just so
From out
unique.
west?
From out west, yeah.
Ah.
So there's a blackberry salt that is just stunning. It's beautiful. So that's a great garnish. It's also very nice on the top of your cappuccino when you're treating yourself.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how that little bit of salt brings up the flavor. And who else is very, well, there's so many interesting folks, I have to say. Anybody else? The seed to sausage, that's the salamis, the dried salamis. He's a very interesting fellow. He started out working in the Navy on submarine sonar. And yeah, doing some very interesting work and who knows what else. And then decided that that's what he would do, that he wanted to get involved in a food situation whereby he knew from seed to his product, sausage, every step of the way. He was involved in every single bit of it, yeah.
Awesome. We have another question from Michael. What is your preferred plant-based cheese?
I don't have as much knowledge about it as I'd like, but I know that Whole Foods carries a line of cashew cheeses that I had one time that a friend got for us to eat. And also, I think Farm Boy, and it's very tasty. It's very, very nice. Now, when I was doing a lot of product development for the Wild Oat, we did a lot of things like creamy things using cashew cream that we'd make with raw cashews, and we'd soak them and buzz them, and then that would be stirred in at the end. So we did a lot of sort of creamy type things with cashew, and I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a cool question. What's your favorite restaurant in Ottawa?
My favorite restaurant in Ottawa. We haven't been out for a couple of years almost, but I think the whale's bone does some great stuff. I really like Green Door on Main Street for vegetarian food. I mean, I've been going there since they were just that little place. We had to walk up the stairs. And that was the first place that I took my babies. That was their first food out because they had things I knew they could eat. So I really, really like the Green Door. I think, like I said, the whale's bone is very good. 4th Avenue Wine Bar was fun. I think it was more the atmosphere. It was cozy. They gave you excellent service. The ambiance was very nice. A nice wine selection. The menu was not too big. I haven't been there in a while. Was not too big, but you could always find something, a little snack or a little something that was, didn't let you down. I tend to avoid the bigger places, the chain places. What's the other one? Is it Flora and Fauna on Bank Street? Flora and Fauna, I think so. They're very good.
That sounds nice.
They're very good, yeah. And then there's a new place on Elgin Street. It's called Julia, and it's spelt the Italian way. And that's supposed to be very good as well.
Oh.
That's owned by the folks that have Datsun and the Mexican place. So I don't go out a lot. I'm too busy in the kitchen being the mad scientist and doing other things. So I really don't go out an awful lot. But those are places that I would really, I wouldn't hesitate to mention to people.
The Zontans that know me, I'm sure I'm not supposed to say this, but my grandson is making pizzas at Johnny Farina's.
Oh, he is?
Yes,
I wonder if I've had pizza at Johnny Farina's.
We have a really quick, could you repeat the name of the wine bar you mentioned?
4th Avenue Wine Bar.
4th Avenue.
That's David. He's a bit of a jerk, but he knows his wine. I've known David for a long time, so it's okay. And I did not put out the Petit Démon, which is Maggie's, again, Folie Bergère, and that's a goat cheese. So I'm going to do that now. I just realized that it wasn't out. Excuse me. There. Okay, so there's your hodgepodge. Hodgepodge, if you will. Pity we can't light the candles, but anyway, you get the idea.
Well, Susan, we have a tradition at Zonta Club. It's not only our tradition, it's for all the 67 countries, or 65 countries where Zonta clubs are. And we have a rose, a color rose. It's a yellow rose that is sort of our rose. And so we would like to give you these in appreciation for tonight.
Thank you.
And
They're beautiful.
I
Thank
don't
you.
know, I'm hoping that people will write down in the chat if they like this, because maybe we can persuade her to come back.
Well,
But,
they're gorgeous. Yellow signifies friendship, does it not?
yes, it does, yes.
Yes. Thank you very
And,
much.
The word Zonta, it's a Lakota Indian word, and it means trustworthy.
Okay. Thank you. These are beautiful.
Our club was founded in 1929, and Zonta International was founded 10 years before that. And you might be interested in knowing that the first senator in Canada, Corinne Wilson, I think her name was, she was a Zonchan. Most of we have some really wonderful, famous Zonchans. And when we gave out we started to give out the theater awards. One of the first ones we gave was to a young lady who you might recognize, you might not. Her name is Sandra Oh.
Yeah, I sure do.
So I think those scholarships.
I think that was a
have
good
lot.
support. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we've all benefited.
Right. So I think on behalf, maybe CJ would like to say something, but certainly on behalf of myself and all my fellow Zonchans and friends, we thank you very, very much. And
we have one fun question. What's going to happen with all this food?
Susie, Marcelli, our two guests, and the boys, our cameramen. They are starved. They've been working so hard.
And we've got a couple messages saying thank you and it's been a great evening. From Janet, it's been a great evening. Looks of good ideas. We do a lot of potlucks, and I'm looking forward to trying one of these.
Great.
Chef Susan, you've elevated my holiday appetizers and charcuterie boards. Thank you so much.
Good.
That's another
Mission accomplished.
Yes.
Couple more. My vegetarian daughter is really going to appreciate this. Thanks for all the new ideas.
Good.
And a couple other thank yous.
Great.
Yes, I want to thank everybody so much for coming tonight. I don't know if it's just me, but that hour went so fast. And I'm looking forward to trying these recipes myself as well. I don't typically do the cooking at my house, but I think now my roommate will be really grateful that I attended tonight. So on behalf of the club, I really want to thank you for being here, for supporting our awards programs. We're sure to have future fundraisers, and we invite you to attend those as well as our awards show, which always takes place in the spring. It's an open invitation to you all to see what your ticket cost has helped support for our club. So this concludes our evening. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. If you did not receive the recipes, please, before you leave, put your name in the chat, and we'll make sure that you do receive those. We will be sending the recording out within the next 72 hours, so you'll be able to create everything along with Chef Susan for the second time. So thank you to Chef Susan again for walking us through this lovely, lovely evening. Have a good night, everybody.